Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I am a nutrition entrepreneur. But here's the catch. I have a full-time traditional dietitian job. My entrepreneurial endeavors are my side hustle. I've been making six figures through my job and side hustle doing things that I love. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Welcome to the 39th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. The conditions will never be right. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was on a Facebook Live, and it was really fun because it was two of my business coaches, Javier Carlin and Greg Todd. So they're both physical therapists, both business coaches that I actively work with, and Javier was interviewing Greg, and I was so excited because I'm like, oh, perfect, two of my favorites. This is going to be great. And as I expected, they just shared so much gold in this Facebook Live interview, but one thing they said really stuck out to me. I wrote it down, and it really stayed with me for a few days. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this concept that they brought up. And what they said was the conditions will never be right. So for me, it really made me stop and think. So many times when we're talking about starting a side hustle, when we're talking about our entrepreneurial endeavors, people want to wait till the time is right. Like, yeah, I want to do this. I have this dream in my head, but I'm going to wait until, life's less busy. I'm going to wait until I really perfect this one thing. And we all have our reasons on why we're going to wait to get started because we want those conditions to be just right. But the reality is that we live in an imperfect world, and sometimes life just gets crazy. And if we are able to understand that the conditions will never be right, it really helps us make the decision on, do I want to move forward or not? So oftentimes that decision to, wait until the conditions are right is surrounded by the idea of perfectionism. We want everything to be perfect, the perfect timing, the perfect schedule, the perfect skills, all the things are perfect. But I really believe that perfect is an illusion. Perfect is not something that we ever attain. It's, this idea, but it's often something that holds us back. Now, I do talk a lot about being imperfectly perfect. I feel like I totally need to have a podcast episode completely dedicated to perfectionism. I'm going to do that later. But if you ever hear me talk online, on social media, in any of my programming, probably on previous podcast episodes, I talk a lot about how I don't view perfectionism as a badge of honor. It really is a weakness. It's something that holds us back, especially as dietitians. And perfect is just an illusion. It does not exist. You have to make a choice. And you have to make sure that your reasons for doing the thing you want to do, I'm talking about side hustle, but this can be anything in life, your reasons need to be greater than your excuses. Now, we all have excuses. I have them too. We have reasons on, I can't do this. I can't do this. But if you decide, I'm going to start a side hustle, I'm going to do a thing, I'm going to start this program, I'm going to do this, I'm finally going to do the thing that's in my head that I've been dreaming about for years, you just have to make a choice that you're going to do it. And again, those reasons on why you're doing it have to be super strong because excuses will come up. Very valid excuses. And I'm not just saying like, I just don't feel like it. I'm talking about real life stuff. Stuff is going to come up. It's going to get in the way. And we ultimately do have to make a decision on, is this something I want to do or not? So I'm going to get a little personal. I'm going to share a little bit about what's been going on in my life the last year and really why this concept of the conditions will never be right stuck with me. I feel like the last year for me has been crazy. I mean, we're in 2021. We all survived 2020. So I think the pandemic was heck for all of us, right? But, I started actually kind of writing down all the things I went through this last year. And I was like, dang, man, a lot of things happened. And I'm sharing this with you guys for a couple of reasons. I think one of the things about me is I smile a lot and I really put on a good front, but I really want to share on the back end of kind of what's going on in my life and how things aren't perfect. Life does get crazy. The conditions aren't always right. And I think sometimes it's easy to look at someone who we perceive as having success, someone who's smiling and happy and think, oh my gosh, their life must be perfect. Of course they're able to do the thing because everything's lined up, the conditions are right. And, when my life gets less crazy, I'm going to do the things too. So I wanted to share with you guys just this perspective. And then also just to share like, man, it has been a crazy year. So this is kind of comical, kind of not, but I kind of feel like it all started outside the pandemic. I mean, that was crazy enough. But last summer, I feel like it all kind of started in August when I got attacked by wasps. Like, real legit story. I was in the woods with my daughter. We were picking huckleberries, and she was walking across a a dried out log, and she stepped in it and her shoe got stuck. She pulled her foot out and her shoe was there, and she's like, Mom, my shoe. And of course I'm like, grab your shoe, get it yourself. And she's like, I can't. So I walk over, I pull her shoe out of this dead log, and immediately wasps start swarming out. I can feel the sting. I turn around and I run. And I'm screaming, run, Emily! I get about 10 feet, turn around, look at Emily, and she is standing there. Like, if we talk about like fight, flight, or freeze, like my daughter was 100% freeze. She is just frozen, like, oh crap, what's going on? So, Mama Bear and me run back into the swarm of wasps, pick up my daughter like a football. I'm running through the woods, Oregon forest, uneven ground, huckleberries up to my knees, limbs down everywhere. I don't even know how I did it, but I'm running through the woods, holding my daughter, who was 5 years old at the time, like a football. I could feel the wasp stings. I'm yelling at my son, don't come over here. And, it was a whole thing. But anyways, I was okay. I was stung I think my daughter was stung once. I was stung 3-4 times. But, the thing about wasp stings is they hurt, and I had them on 3 different limbs. So, it was really interesting to have all of that wasp pain in my body. But anyways, I know that that's quite the story I'm telling, but I really feel like that being attacked by wasps was this totally random thing. I'd been picking huckleberries in the woods in Oregon my entire life, and I'd never had anything like this happen. But, it started off with, okay, I got attacked by wasps. This totally sucks. Next thing what happened is those wasp stings got infected. So, real gross, had to go get on antibiotics, all the things. And I thought, okay, well, things are getting better now. Then I started struggling with pain, really significant pain. And I'm going to share a little bit of personal stuff here, but we're all in the healthcare realm. So, you know what? I really think we need to take the shame out of talking about things. But I started having a lot of rectal pain. And to the point where I'm like, man, this isn't normal. What is going on? It led me to go to my doctor. It led me to a gastroenterologist, and I ended up getting my first colonoscopy. I'm 37. So I ended up getting diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which totally sucked. I do have ulcerative proctitis. It's the most mild version of ulcerative colitis, but, it still sucks. It's still painful. It's still rough. And it's one of those things where I remember learning about, irritable, learning about IBD and, all of the different things and ulcerative colitis, thinking, oh my gosh, that would be horrible. Yeah, it totally is horrible. So I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And I will tell you that after that diagnosis, it really came with a lot of just depression and anxiety of getting diagnosed with a chronic disease that, will never go away. I mean, yeah, you could manage it, but you never know how your body's going to respond to treatment. I was taking medications 4 times a day. It was just really crazy to kind of shift to being a patient really for the first time in my life, with being on all these medications and dealing with chronic pain and just that fear and anxiety of oh my gosh, this sucks. It just is what it is, and it's never going to go away. And I know a lot of people who are dietitians, a lot of you come into the field because, you've had health issues that have brought you here. So, I imagine there are several of you listening who have ulcerative colitis. So you guys get it. So I got that diagnosis, and it was really hard. It really derailed me. And I will say, I was actually launching my second cohort of the Blogging Accelerator program when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. You probably wouldn't know that based on what I was putting out into the world, but it was a really hard season for me. Around that time, gosh, it might have been even a little before that, there was a really devastating fire in my community. Fires, there were multiple fires going on. We were at the point where we actually had to kind of evacuate. And I say kind of because there was really nowhere to go. I live in a valley, and we were loaded up with our important stuff, our dog, our cat, our kids in the truck. But we really had nowhere to go because we live in a valley, and there were 3 different fires burning, so we really didn't know where to go, and it was just a really stressful, fearful time and period. The fires ended up, they stopped a little over a mile from our house, but it was really devastating for my community. Gosh, so many homes were lost. It was awful. It was scary. And it was one of those things that I'm like, oh my goodness, will the things stop from getting attacked by wasps to those getting infected to, having this significant issue with pain to, getting my first real big chronic health diagnoses to these fires and, okay, life's going to calm down. The conditions are going to get better. I'm going to be able to really do some of the things I want to do. But, life happens, right? So moving into 2021, when I think so many of us thought, oh, it's going to be a better year. I mean, life is good. Don't get me wrong. I always see the good in things, but, again, just talking about the struggle, I still was having issues with my health. Having this diagnosis of ulcerative colitis was, there were still issues. I ended up getting diagnosed as well with irritable bowel disease with constipation, because I am this magical unicorn who kind of has like two ends of the spectrum, ulcerative colitis, but then IBS-C. And honestly, I'm still dealing with pain. I have more tests going on. I'm going to more specialists, and we're still trying to figure out like what's going on with me. It's kind of still a work in progress. I'm getting my third colonoscopy tomorrow in less than 6 months, or maybe just over 6 months. I think it was, it's 6 months actually. It was right around this time, 6 months ago, that I had my first colonoscopy. But it's my third one, and I'm currently on a clear liquid diet, and I am starving to death and a little unhappy, but here we are. But what else has happened? So even within my family, I've had family members who had, biopsies come back as being abnormal. So the fear of cancer, that is still something we are, that might be a possibility. Someone else really close in my family really struggling with their mental health in significant ways where we have to get them help. Someone else in my family who's having to have surgery at the end of June for a condition that just isn't getting better. We had a really close death in the family and had to stop everything and go to Illinois for a service. And that's been my year, kind of the back end of things, some of the personal things of what I've been struggling with my health, with my mental health, with the anxiety. And ultimately, there have been times where I'm laying in bed and I just can't get up. There have been times where I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my goodness, not with my work, but more with just like life stuff, that I just feel overwhelmed. And the reality is that the conditions will never be right. And I remember actually laying in bed and thinking something about that, not quite as eloquently as I feel like my business coaches had laid out, that, the conditions will never be right. But I remember thinking, I need to make a decision. I need to decide, am I going to stay stuck? Am I going to feel sorry for myself, or am I going to move forward? Now, I want to be super clear in what I am not saying. I'm not saying suck it up and keep going. Sometimes you 100% need to take a break. That is very important, to take care of yourself and to have grace with yourself. But if you're ultimately coming from a place of, I have this dream I want to achieve, I want to do something, you have to decide, are you going to keep going, or are you going to give up? So for me, a lot of that was, struggling with the chronic pain on like, I could lay here curled up in bed, or I could make the decision that I'm just going to get up and move my body, and I'm going to do the things anyways, even though it sucks and I don't want to. So, I also think it's important to evaluate your goals. So if we are not moving forward towards these goals and these dreams in our head, sometimes it's a matter of figuring out, is this still something that I want to do? Is this still something that I need to do? And if your goals and your vision and your dreams have changed, that's okay. Shift them. But for me, I still have this passion for blogging. I still have this love for helping other dietitians start their online businesses and start blogging and making money through multiple income streams. And it's what I'm so passionate about. And it's something that when I'm doing it, I feel good. I feel fulfilled. I feel better. When I'm, in pain and in bed and feeling sad and depressed, like I don't like that version of myself. I like the person who's out there helping people. So, I think looking back at my last year, I was like, yeah, the conditions will never be right. Stuff happens, life happens, things get real. So I'm sharing with this with you guys for a couple of reasons. Again, to kind of pull back the curtain and talk about kind of like what happens in real life. I know I'm sharing some personal things, but I hope it's helpful for you guys, because it's so easy to look at the illusion of what we think someone is and what they're going through. But I want to talk to you guys about, if you have that dream in your head, if you really want to do the thing, I want you guys to understand the conditions will never be right, and you guys need to make a decision moving forward. So if I'm like speaking to you, if you're like, oh my gosh, Katie, you are so right. I've been sitting on this dream forever, and I need to do the things. I'm waiting for things to be perfect. I'm waiting for the right moment. I'm waiting for the right time. I'm tired of waiting. 3 action items for you. The first thing I want you to do is uncover your why. You need to figure out, why do I want to do this thing? And I mentioned before, it's really important that your why, your reasons for why you're doing this thing are greater than your excuses. Because if you don't have a really solid foundation on why you are starting this side hustle, why you are pursuing this dream, when life gets hard, you're going to give up, you're going to quit, you're not going to keep going. So you need to uncover your why, write it down, like get serious about it. It's not just this concept, but this is why I am doing this, because I want to help people, because I want to create a life for my family, because whatever the reason is for you, but write it down. The next thing is to mentally prepare for imperfectionism. So I think, again, I mentioned how a lot of dietitians, we're perfectionists and we want to wait for everything to be just perfect. Just mentally prepare yourself. I'm going to start, I'm going to do the thing. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. I'm going to keep moving forward, knowing that over time things will get better and that perfect is an illusion and I don't have to be perfect. Number 3, I want you guys to set some SMART goals with a date. So we all learn about SMART goals. We're dietitians, right? They're specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely goals. And it's not just for your clients, it's for us too. On paper, write down what are your goals and put a date to it. Actually set a date for when you're going to do the thing that you want to do. So those 3 items, figure out your why. Why are you doing this? What is your reason? Make sure it's strong enough. Mentally prepare yourself for being imperfect, and then set some SMART goals with a very specific date so you will get started understanding that conditions are never going to be right. You just got to make a decision. You got to move forward, and you got to do it. So thanks so much for listening, guys, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast, guys. Be sure to head on over to the Dietitian Side Hustle website at dietitiansidehustle.com and check out our coaching page to learn about all the ways that we can work together. Have an amazing day, and I'm so proud of you for taking the initiative to listen to this podcast. Now go out there and get it done. Bye, guys.